I want to chime in and just give you my thoughts on the Baldur's Gate 3 stuff that's been going around pretty much last week. I've waited until now to get all the facts in from everybody and have a good laugh at their bull, because that's what it is. It's excuses and bullshit. And I'm going to show you why. It all started when Baldur's Gate 3 started to get attacked by some developers. And it was an attack. There's no question about it. They were not happy with what they were seeing. They're seeing an indie company make a game that's blown away pretty much every AAA game in the last 10 years as far as role-playing concerned. It just has. There's no denying that. It is the best role-playing game that's been out for probably longer than 10 years. And a lot of people don't like that. And they say, no, it's an anomaly. It's just an anomaly. Nothing to see here. This isn't the new bar for role-playing. Don't expect us to be able to do, because we can't, anything like Baldur's Gate 3. This isn't the new bar. We will get back to business as usual, shoveling our shit down your throats for £75. And the reason it's an anomaly, guys, and it isn't the new bars, we don't all have the funding. What funding? Tell me, will somebody please tell me this elusive funding they had when they made Baldur's Gate 3? Because if you did your fucking research, you'd find they had no fucking funding. They had to pay money to even be allowed to do Baldur's Gate, because they didn't own the franchise. They had to pay. It cost them to actually do it. Here's the thing. I'm sick and tired of excuses. They're just lame-ass excuses from people with either no talent or just fucking downright lazy people. People like that in life, guys, are full of excuses. And it is an excuse. You could make a game as good as Baldur's Gate 3 if you did it in the proper way. Like the way Larian Studios did it. How did Larian Studios, if that's the way you pronounce it, create Baldur's Gate 3? Well, I'll give you the quick story, shall we? They made a lot of other games in the role-playing genre leading up to Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate 3 was like their pinnacle moment. They made lots of other games leading up to that. Some were great, some were not so great. But they all were pretty good, and they learned a lot of stuff in that time. They learned how to put games together, how to bring that role-playing to life in games. And then they had their big break with Divinity Original Sin. They had to do Kickstarters to get the money. And if that game had failed, they would have gone bankrupt. That's how much fucking funding they had. They put everything on the line for that, because they had passion and belief in their ability to deliver a great role-playing game. And they did that. Then Divinity Original Sin 2 with co-op came out, and it was fantastic. It was runner-up to Game of the Year on my channel in 2017. It was a fantastic game. Again, just they had to run a Kickstarter because they had no fucking money. Get it? They had to run that, and they put the passion and poured the heart and soul into it and made a fantastic role-playing game. And you know what? They took all of that knowledge, all of that experience, and they ploughed their money and bought the rights to do Baldur's Gate 3, and they ran that out in early access the first 10 hours, and they just give it love and love and love, and said, right, we're not going to do all the bullshit that you get in the AAA industry, day one fucking patches, and there's part of the game here, part of the game there. Blech. They didn't do any of that. They just says, look, we are fucking good. We've learned our fucking trade. We know what we're fucking doing. There's the game. This is what we said we were going to deliver, and we're delivering it now because we are happy with it. And they delivered it. Sure, it's not perfect, but it's a damn good game. And that's how you got Baldur's Gate 3. It's not a fucking anomaly. It's people with passion, with grit, with determination that weren't even going to let bankruptcy fucking stop them. It's people with spines. That's how they got Baldur's Gate 3 out. So all you lazy fuckers out there in developer land who just think they can just get them out of bed. Oh, I want some fucking money. There's a game. Go east, open the cupboard. You want instant success. You can't be bothered to put in the hours. Instant success. Where's my instant success? I want it now. I want the money now. That's kind of the way it's been for a while now, for quite a while now. Now, I understand fully that there are a load of developers out there, very talented, hard-working developers, that are just finding themselves under the orders of these clueless publishers. Publishers that wouldn't know how to make a good game, let alone publish one. They just don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't understand core gameplay. They just don't. All they understand is fleecing gamers. That's all they want to do. They just want to dissect as much of the game and sell it off in bits and do all these stupid pre-order bullshittery. You see it every single month of this year in one way or another with AAA games. And you know what? It's happened so often for so long. People are now used to it and they're happy to lap it up. And if something's a little bit better than absolute shite, oh yeah, that's a 7 out of 10. Oh dear. Do you know what? You know the Overwatch 2 debacle that's on? There's people posting on the Steam forum of Overwatch 2 saying, don't be too hard on Blizzard because Blizzard did this for us on the PC and they did that. It's like, what the f***, mate? What they've done to Overwatch 2 is another video completely. But it's absolutely atrocious, the monetization. But that's not for today. I want to talk about Mike Singleton. That's who I want to talk about. He's dead now, unfortunately, but he was a man who had a passion for role-playing games. And on the Spectrum, the ZX Spectrum, and let's be honest, my fucking watch has more memory available than a ZX fucking Spectrum. He made a game called The Lords of Midnight with a sequel called Doom Dark's Revenge. I only played them on the Commodore 64, which had slightly less memory than a fucking calculator. And do you know what they were? They were a massive open world game full of independent AI characters that you could fight with or recruit into a giant army. Each person you recruited then became somebody you controlled. You ended up controlling vast armies and special people. There was Rotheron, Tarathel, Luxor the Moon Prince, and Morkan. God, I can remember them after all these years. And you had this whole huge world. There's a map of it. Every square on that map represents a location. And you were fighting Shareth the Heartstealer, this is in Doom Dark's Revenge, who only moved at night, you moved at day. There was dragons, there was wolves, there was Skilkrin or something. There was all kinds of things out there on the land. Forests, plains, mountains, and you moved. Now, there was no moving graphics at all, and there was no sound in this game. They couldn't afford the memory for any sound in the game. It was either you can have the gameplay, but we can't give you sound. It would just take up too much memory. We need all the memory just so you can press a button and then the next picture would come up of, like, say for example, I'm looking north and I pressed the look east button. You would get that picture of north would vanish and then a picture of east would appear on your screen. And when you moved forward, I think you pressed the space bar and you would move forward, you would get the next screen of that. So if there was a tree in the distance, it would be a little bit closer. And if there was flags in the distance of an army, they'd be a little bit closer. And it was fantastic. I played that for thousands of hours. And do you know what? That game was pretty much impossible to make back then. But Mike Singleton, the genius that he was able to get all of that performance out of the Spectrum and the Commodore 64 to make that fantastic game back then. That's what's called passion, hard work, and no fucking excuses. But you know what? That's the way it was back then. Everybody built on top of everybody else's work and made it bigger and better. They built back then. It was a different time back then. People weren't full of excuses. People just got on with a job with passion, grit, and determination. They weren't sitting in safe places at work drinking and eating gluten-free fucking cereals. You know, they were fucking working, getting the job done and making great games for us gamers. So what I want to say to all the people out there who are game programmers, especially in the indie, because the AAA is fucked. In indie, just keep at it, build your games up. You might not get to where you want to be straight away, but build up that ladder and you too could end up with a Baldur's Gate 3 game. It isn't going to come straight away. You might have to do 10 games before you get that, but that's what can be done. You don't need massive funding to start off with. You just need your passion. Bring that game to life and people will buy it. It's as simple as that.